Artist Justin Vining started out as an attorney, but now he's pursuing a career as a painter. His work features whimsical houses and landscapes, often painted on recovered wood from Whimsical Houses and Landscapes. Travis DiNicola spoke to Justin about his upcoming show of work at Upland Brewing space in the Murphy Arts Building, and he also spoke with Jason Cooper from Upland Brewing about the Upland Propaganda Room.
Jason, I'm going to start with you because this is a pretty cool thing that Upland has been doing for a while with First Fridays at your space down at the Murphy Arts Building. Tell me sort of about the parties that you guys throw once a month that connect with artists and local nonprofits and good local beer.
That's the most important for us, at least. Well, we are always trying to think of creative ways to get our beer in people's hands. We ended up moving this summer into the Murphy building as just our office space. It's just like a good space to store things and have the occasional meeting. Mm-hmm. But it's such a great space, and they already had a great First Friday event that we knew we wanted to be a part of that.
Sure.
So we get a different artist every month to come in and show their work for that night. And then if there's anything else going on throughout the month, we're happy to have that art still hang up on the walls. But we get a different artist in each month to show their work. We have a different not-for-profit that we team up with every month as well.
Okay.
And then we also have a great friend of ours, DJ in town named Jack Ola, who's playing some music. And then we sell our beer for very low prices. And then we give the proceeds of the beer of the sales that night to the not-for-profit that's helping out.
So promoting the not-for-profit, promoting the local artists, connecting it all. And just adding another cool element down in Fountain Square.
That's the idea, absolutely.
Cool. That's a really very cool thing. And I was delighted to see that Justin was going to be featured for February. Justin, I've been wanting to get you on the show. I met you a couple months back, in fact, when you were showing your art as part of a big event for the Indiana Recycling Coalition. And, in fact, it's the Recycling Coalition that's, again, benefiting from the show you're doing coming up, right?
That is correct. I thought that would be a great way to give back. I was honored to display my work at their event, and it just seemed like a small way that I could say thank you.
Well, I was really excited about your work that I saw that night and what I've seen since. It's really sort of this interesting kind of these whimsical, not quite cartoonish, but very just fun buildings and landscapes. And one of the things I really enjoy about the work that you're painting is that you're using often as your canvas like sort of recycled wood from old houses or furniture or things you found. I mean, that's a really sort of neat element to it because you've got these like great, clean, modern lines on one hand with your painting, but then this sort of, old, weathered wood that's your canvas.
Yeah, I really like to embrace the found objects in my work. And a lot of times I feel some of the advantages in working with a found object is it's one of a kind before I even touch it.
Yeah.
So I can just exploit what's already there and bring out the natural beauty and do a little bit of painting, maybe paint a nice little house or a barn, and bring it to life. So
it looks to me, I mean, like a lot of the stuff you're painting, it looks like it's got to come from just great memories you have of houses or farms or landscapes.
Yeah, my background, I did grow up on a farm, and I'm naturally drawn to paint that subject, and I can't get away from it. So
it's just a real positive sense of home, and then that I really enjoy in your work. And one thing I found really interesting about you actually, are an attorney as well, right?
I am, and I do practice a little bit right now.
You do practice?
Yeah,
okay.
I do. I have a small caseload on the side. It's fun practicing law. It's a little bit scary at times as a young independent attorney, but
See, most people would switch that and say the law, being a professional artist is the scary part.
No, I think that just sort of seems natural.
Yeah. So how does that all work together? I mean, it's an interesting combination because two totally different parts of your brain you're using. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think about the differences that much. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just seems to balance. I don't really know how to describe it any other way, but
different ways of solving problems.
Yeah,
and stuff.
It really is. And I enjoy the practice of law, but Honestly, I enjoy painting more.
Tell me about your art training. How'd you get involved in doing what you're doing?
My background.
You've got such a specific style. I mean, it's so recognizable.
Yeah, and I guess just to give you a little bit of context, my background in high school, I was always interested in art, but looking back, I wouldn't have called myself that kid in the art class that was really good at painting or drawing. Rather, I just had the passion. And when I went to Purdue, I decided to follow that passion and become an art teacher. I taught elementary art on the northeast side of Indy for 3 years, and it really was an awesome job. Loved it.
Okay.
But my younger brother decided he was going to go to law school, and long story short, I went with him. And it really wasn't until I was in law school that I found my artistic voice. I mean, I painted. I would consider myself more of a hobbyist before law school. I mean, I painted for fun. I never really had this ambition of becoming a full-time professional artist. But I found my artistic voice. I was in school with a bunch of incredibly intelligent peers that happened to have their MBAs and taught me how to build the business side of creating. And by the time I graduated law school, we had built a sustainable business with a sustainable income. And so, I just continued to chase it, and I continued to paint full time.
So let's talk about this voice that you're talking about, because I think one of the absolute hardest things for an artist to do is to find that specific voice, that style, that is them, that's recognizable when you see a work and you say, oh, that's a Justin Vining, or locally a lot of other some artists have some really noticeable, recognizable styles, whether it's like Emma Overman or Kyle Ragsdale or whoever
right.
you might picking stuff, and your style. If you can you describe to me, I mean, maybe the work you were doing before you found your voice and how it sort of transitioned? I mean, can you think back to that?
Yeah, and I guess there was another even, I'll describe that, and there's almost a question before that too that I'll answer as well. And in regards to my style, sort of that distinctness, I actually had somebody write me this week on the internet asking the very same question.
Yeah.
And what I responded, I worry less about the style or creating a specific type of work, and I just paint what I'm passionate about.
Okay.
And that painting what I'm passionate about, the consistency, it's almost the style continues to evolve, but has evolved over time into what you see today. So I think when you see that style or say that style, I would almost say it's more passion.
Okay, so you're not like consciously trying to create this style.
No.
It's just you're painting what you're passionate about, and this is the style you found that comes out. But
right now, to follow that up, and actually my digression. Can you?
Well, in terms of what was your work like, sort of before you found that voice?
Yeah. Okay. Similar.
Okay.
After high school, through my undergrad at Purdue, I was painting rural landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say they were more traditional.
Okay.
More impressionistic. I would say more what you would think of when I would say Indiana rural barn painting or landscape painting. What you're picturing in your mind was probably more like what I was painting then.
Yeah.
And in the years, it has continued to evolve, painting the farms, but I've simplified it, cleaned it all up. I as you mentioned
very
before,
clean lines.
Right. I really like those sharp edges.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a continuous evolution over time, but
And then adding in that element of the found object. Is that something more recent?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That happened. I was at a garage sale while I was in law school. There was this guy. He had like 10 table leaves, all beautiful, walnut, oaks, and I think they were $1 a piece, and they're just beautiful. And I was like, I have got to do something with these things. So I bought them all. They were in my garage for about a year, and I was getting ready for my first solo show, and I was like, I think it's time to do something with these pieces.
Yeah.
I had this one in particular that had really beautiful grain, and I set it aside, and I had it in my living room, not in the garage for that year. And one random day before that show, I picked it up. I painted a cool little house on it. I just let the grain sort of speak for itself. The grain looked like fields already. I exploited it just a bit with transparent acrylics, just enough to bring out the beauty.
Okay.
And I was hooked. I started painting on all sorts of found objects. And some of the pieces you saw at the IRC banquet,
yes,
some of those actually just came from alleys in Indianapolis. I mean, old shutters, all sorts of stuff that I've just sort of found around the area. And I think it's fun to take that what's already there and again exploit it.
Very cool, very cool. Now, can you share with us a preview of any of the work, maybe some new work that's going to be at the Upland show?
Yeah, actually, I'm really, obviously the show is less than 2 weeks away, so I'm pretty knee deep in all these paintings. I've started all the major works for the show, and a lot of it is on plywood actually. So not found object, plywood I've bought, but it's sort of taking that found object to sort of one step. Maybe it's not a step further, but something like that. And I'm doing a lot of black and white work, black and white acrylic, really dense, opaque cityscapes.
Yeah, the poster for this, features obviously like an Indianapolis cityscape.
Right, and the objective, my objective for painting on the plywood is the contrast between the wood grain, the natural color of the wood, and just sort of these cityscapes that, they almost look like they don't belong on this plywood. They look, it's sort of taking those clean lines, the defined edges, and really trying to challenge myself, take it a step further. And there's really no room for error, because if I get paint outside on this plywood anywhere else outside these cityscapes, it kind of ruins the effect.
Well, it's interesting with these tight sort of illustrative lines. And you see the cityscape and you're thinking, metal and glass and concrete, and yet it's existing on a piece of wood, which is, totally opposite of what you're thinking for the cityscape.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting combination.
It is.
Sense of material.
It's been really fun to paint on, and it's definitely different. I don't think I've really seen anything like it. So it's a lot of pieces like that. I also, along with these pieces on plywood, I'm doing some mixed media pieces. One of the things I've done post law school is I've taken all of the materials that I used, or my notes, the textbooks, all this stuff. I'm putting it all back into my art. So one of the biggest pieces, it's 4 feet by 5 feet. It has the last 200 pages of, actually it's my brother's civil procedure book in it.
Literally.
It is. I use the pages. Yeah, it's funny because the first 700 pages are now hanging in the Valparaiso School of Law as a piece of art we donated back to the school. So
that's awesome.
The last 200 pages are going to be a part of this show. And again, it is going to be a cityscape, and I think this one's going to be Indianapolis.
Jason, I want to give you the last word on this. Do you have a recommendation for a particularly good Upland beer that would go well with Justin's work here?
I would stick with our Dragonfly IPA, I think.
Yeah?
I don't know. There's something about that has enough substance to it that's really going to hold up for the night.
Got a sort of mix of different flavors going on in a way.
But I will say that I think any of it goes pretty well with it, just because I know our logo is not all that dissimilar from a lot of Justin's work, and I think he's had people ask him if he's worked with us in the past. So
I have.
I think any of our stuff will go just fine with Justin's work.
Travis DiNicola with artist Justin Vining and Upland Brewing's Jason Cooper. A show of Justin's work will take place from 6 to 9 on Friday, February 3rd in the Upland Brewing space, which is called the Upland Propaganda Room, in the Murphy Art Building in Fountain Square. There'll be music from DJ Jackola, and all beer proceeds will benefit the Indiana Recycling Coalition. More information is available at justinvining.com. That's JUSTINVINING, justinvining.com.